Well, for the most part, a lot of the legal issues when you're dealing with online really stem through communications into the United States. In addition, if you're shipping products into the United States, you need to be concerned about whether there's some regulations in the United States that relate to your product or your services, especially if it's something that's perishable, if there are foods, if there are labeling issues. So, I mean, there are some generic business laws that apply, but for the most part, really specific to your company. So you would want to reach out to someone in the United States to talk about how your company fits in to the scheme of international business. Well, when you're talking about trademarks and copyrights and other things like that, it's really important to know where your message is being sent. And if you're doing a lot of business in the United States, you'd want to be protecting your rights in the United States so that your brand, your name, your products are protected there as well as wherever you are if you're in Canada or outside. If people are speaking about your company, you also need to know where they are. And if they are in the United States, there are laws like the Communications Decency Act and there are laws like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act that protect companies for speech. You also need to know that the United States has very strong laws when it comes to protecting speech, stronger than many other places. So some things that may seem offensive to folks in the United States and outside are protected. So it encourages a free flow of information. But when people cross over the line into saying false things of fact about your company that cause actual damage, then you may have issues that you're able to prosecute a little more aggressively in the United States.
And there's a new piece of legislation. Can you tell us about it, the Speech Act?
Well, the Speech Act was just enacted into law in August by President Obama. And what that does is it forbids companies from outside the United States from enforcing judgments that were obtained for defamation outside of the United States unless there are safeguards for U.S. citizens and U.S. companies that talk about the freedom of speech and the due process clause of the United States, which generally means that if you have a lawsuit that you've succeeded in outside of the United States, you can't enforce it inside the United States unless you could have gotten the same judgment there.
So if a Canadian company was, say, to launch a lawsuit in the courts in Canada and win a judgment against a U.S. company based on defamation or libel, that means that they may not necessarily get that judgment enforced if the person has, or company has no assets in Canada. Is that correct?
That's right. Generally speaking, if the judgment comports with the U.S. defamation laws, it's going to be a stronger case to enforce it in the United States. But if it can't, or if it doesn't, if it's based on some protections that the United States does not offer the same as Canada, then it might not. So you're right.
Now, how is copyright handled in the United States? I mean, I understand that the United States is pretty aggressive, as is Canada, in protecting copyright ownership. Is that correct?
Yes. Generally speaking, whenever a company or a person writes something down or publishes something for the first time, copyright protection is automatic. In order to have a stronger case and enforce it in the courts, you'd want to register your copyrights. But for the most part, copyright is with the speaker. So if someone speaks online, someone puts a comment about your company, or you post something online about your company or about anything, that's protected in the United States for copyright from a general perspective.
So again, a Canadian company, not only should you not be taking content from other people online, but if you have an issue with a blogger that's picked up one of your posts or violated your copyright, is there reasonable grounds to expect it could be enforced just as easily in the States as it can here?
Generally speaking, again, you want to make sure that your copyright protection, you're registered in the United States and things like that. But generally speaking, yes, the United States takes copyright protection very seriously. Well, the biggest trend is, it seems, is with e-personation or online impersonation, where states in the United States are making it criminal to create a fake profile or a fake website to gain an advantage over a competitor or someone else. And it doesn't even have to be a politician. If you create a profile because someone broke up with you and you create a profile for that person that appears to be legitimate but paints them in a bad light, then in some places you can go to jail.
And this isn't going off the topic of online reputation management, but there's a real crossover happening now where companies in the United States are contacting us and saying, I want to hire an employee that's going to work out of Canada. And they're going to work for a company and they're an employee, but they will maybe only come to the States once a year, maybe for a day or for a week, and a little bit in the reverse as well. So how is this affecting, legal issues of employment when you have this cross-border relationship?
Well, employment law is actually, it's a real interesting area because where the employee is working has a lot to do with some laws that may or may not apply to their relationship with your company. Okay. So if the person is going to be traveling into the United States as a regular part of their business, then you need to speak with someone about the particulars of that situation. There are aggressive restrictions that the United States put in place that may apply depending on the level of contact.
Yeah. Whereas in a company from Canada, if someone is an independent contractor and sets up their own corporation, my understanding is that may be a better way to go. Can you comment on that? Keeps them independent?
It depends. In the United States, the independent contractor role is a very tricky one because there are a number of indicia of employment that the United States will review and determine whether it is an actual relationship of employment or an actual independent relationship. Things like if the person can come and go as she pleases, if the person uses her own tools, if the person uses her own office space, if the person has control over other aspects of how she conducts the business with your company. Those are indicia that may indicate an independent contractor relationship. But if the person is working for your company and gets benefits through your company, is told her schedule, must use your computers or must use your tools, those things start to look like an employment relationship. So it's very important to know that the technical excuse me, the technical aspects of whether it's a separate business that's set up really take a back seat to the in practice aspects of it.
That's very similar to what we've got here as well. So, well, thank you very much. You've given us some things to think about. Any trends that you see coming, that maybe legislation that's being talked about or anything new that we should watch for?
I think for the most part, there's a lot of talk over the e-personation, and I think that with the number of social media sites that are coming up, people are grabbing identities. Sometimes they try to do it for profit. We've seen it a long time with newspaper ads and personal ads. People would take jokes on their friends. The law's taken it very seriously. So that's, I think, the biggest one with the online world especially. Okay, and so people can actually say get their names back if someone was to register my name as a .ca or a .com and I get charged under this law? Well, it depends on a lot of situations, but yes, if they're charged under laws, e-personation laws, they're misusing the website, then generally speaking you can. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Nick. It was great to talk to you. Thank you. Thanks.